Everybody, welcome along to Get Stuck In. We're recording on Wednesday, by the way. Constitution Hill worked yesterday, didn't work very well. Is he going to run the Champion Hurdle, isn't he? I suspect yes. Queen's Gamble, news broke this morning, she's out for the season. It's that time of year, lads.
It is now, yeah, and there'll be some more big names lost, I think, over the next couple of weeks. Unfortunate as it is, obviously we will wait to hear news over the next 7 to 10 days on Constitution Hill. I do hope that he gets there. I mean, it'll be a massive loss for the meeting. We've been waiting to see him pretty much all the way through the winter. Obviously, to have seen a horse like that only once this season is disappointing as it stands at the minute. And, you know, I really hope he does get there. If he does, there'll always still be that little bit of a balancing act between is he going to be quite at his best. But I would suggest that if Nicky Henderson allows him to take his chance, he's still going to be very, very hard to beat, because I don't think they'll risk him and run him if they're not 100% happy with him. And there is a chance, a fair chance, that he comes right if it is just the mucus.
Yeah, if it is just what was said, and we have no reason to believe that it's anything else, but if it is just that, he will run, because 14 days is a long time for a horse to go right and wrong. He'll have intravenous injection yesterday. Back in the day, they would have given like Ventapulmin or something where it has a long withdrawal, so they can't. But nowadays, they would have got something. Penicillin's the only one, I think, with a withdrawal. I might be wrong on that, but penicillin, there is a withdrawal period. The rest of the antibiotics aren't. So I'd imagine by the weekend he'll be clear. And listen to the normally grades and trachea washes and scopes 1 out of 5. I didn't hear his grade, but it reads like it's a 1 out of 5, which is the best. So I'd imagine if Nick, who knows him very well, which is a good thing, so he just eased him off.
I suspect that he wasn't happy a good way out, was he? And he didn't even give him a piece of work, which you could read it two ways, that there's more to it than just the mucus, or he knew there was something not quite right a long way out, gave him an easy time, didn't want to gallop him hard to push him too hard in that circumstance. And look, if he gets there, I still think he'll be very hard to beat. Let's hope he does.
I think it's a wider point. I mean, it does obviously leave you wanting more, is something that's been mentioned, but it is, as Martin says, it is such a disappointment that we're going to see possibly the most talented hurdler in my lifetime once in a season. Now, assuming everything has been okay with him, and perhaps it hasn't, we don't really know, you won't get a better example of the maxim about running horses when they are fit and well, because you genuinely don't know what's around the corner, do you? You've had those freak circumstances. Kicking King came back from injury, Binocular did the same, but we lose horses every year who don't make the festivals, and if it comes to the end of the season and he's won a Christmas hurdle at long odds on, I mean, it's not a legacy that would rival, say, Istabrax, who ran 17 times across 2 seasons once, for instance.
Okay, him aside, what other favourites are you wanting to take on at the Cheltenham Festival?
I think we discussed Marine Nationale over the last few weeks at various points. He's a horse that I really like him as a general rule, but on the back of what he did and the defeat at Leopardstown, I'd have to be looking to take him on in the Arkle, because he was disappointing there, and I think everything just doesn't stack up at the moment. Now, Barry Connell's making positive noises. We heard them going into last year's festival, and he was absolutely right. But I do think he's got a bit to prove in terms of his chasing career on the back of that defeat at Leopardstown. So he's a favourite that I'm very much happy to take on. I'm not saying he can't go there and win. We know his level of ability, but he's about 5-2 last time I looked, and he is a favourite that I'd be looking to take on with some bigger priced horses in the Arkle.
Been here before, didn't go well 12 months ago, but I'm back on the Galopin de Champs train, thinking that I don't think he's as far clear of his rivals this time around as he maybe was 12 months ago. Last year it was a biggish field goal cup, but it wasn't a strong one. Brave Man's Game didn't get the trip. You had horses like Conflated still knocking around in the finish. I think he meets 3 rivals better than he faced last year, potentially. One of them is Fast or Slow, who's beaten him twice. Perhaps the other day was where they are at the minute. There's 4 and a bit lengths between them. One of them is Lon Presse, who I think going back left-handed and over the right trip is a potential runner as well. And obviously the horse I've been going on about all season, Shishkin, who I do believe is a genuinely top-class staying chaser nowadays. For me, still in the back of my mind, is that he was potentially a bit flattered at Leopardstown by going as wide as he did. And yeah, it worked out pretty badly last year, and you were understandably reticent when I mentioned the idea that Statler might be a runner in the race. I think I've got 3 better quality ones running for me this time.
And Corach Rambler as well.
Yeah, correct. I definitely won't give up on him.
Yeah, there's lots of, it looks like quite a wet forecast, I don't think it'll be spring ground. I think it'll be a attritional, could be attritional. It dries up from Tuesday to Friday, but
tactics will be interesting, because last year, you almost felt they got away with that to some extent. He probably wouldn't have wanted him that far back. I think if they ride him a bit more forcefully, it opens up two doors. It opens up the fact he could get taken on and end up doing too much. But at the same token, it seems that forcing style suits him best.
I still think he's got mistakes in him. His jumping can hold him back at times, can't it? I think he's a quite a careful jumper. Now,
he's A to B, flamboyant.
Yeah. Exactly, which you can view as a positive. But if it is a really competitive Gold Cup with lots of horses kind of coming down the hill with a chance on the final circuit, and one mistake could really knock you back. You know, it would worry me enough to not want to be piling into him at even money anyway.
Okay. Marine National and the Gold Cup favourite Galloping des Champs, but the two lads are taking on. What are you taking on? Do let us know the usual way. Get in touch with us, as very shortly we're going to go around the yards. Right, delighted to be joined by Kerry Lee, who's a small sample of runners recently. They're absolutely flying along, Kerry. Well done. They're in rude health.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's nice when you hit a purple patch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good time of year to hit a purple patch. A few important runners starting Saturday with Black Hawk Eagle, who you've done really well with since joining you from Knollmead.
Yeah, he's been quite a revelation. Really enjoyed having him. I think he's really enjoyed the Herefordshire fresh air and countryside. He likes a bit of variety that we've got around here. And he's thriving. It's great.
I see his last run for Knoll was Galway. You've run him Hereford and Wincanton. All three of them are right-handed. Should we read into it, lad, or not really?
A little bit. I think he is pretty right-handed, but unless I wait for the Imperial Cup, then I've got to go left-handed. I'm not sure that the ground at Sandown's going to suit him. It's been pretty deep there so far this winter. So I'm heading for the first opportunity that I think will really suit him. And I think at the end of the day, we've just got to take our chance. He has one going left-handed, so it's not as though he's completely impossible. And
Kelso, very often the last couple of hurdles, they sort of swing towards the stand side anyway.
Exactly. So, I think it's a track that will suit him.
Good stuff. Nemean Lion, how's he?
He's great, thank you.
Yeah. Do you ride him yourself at home?
Very, very occasionally.
Right.
He's a bit too important for me to ride.
Yeah, but he is flying. And can you put your finger on it? Why the horses are just so healthy and they're thriving? They're having a great season.
No, I honestly, I don't think you can put your finger on it. I think it goes in fits and starts, and it's the same for every trainer. Yeah. Sometimes the horses are really well, and other times they're not quite as perky. But I think Nemean Lion's one of those horses that, again, a little bit like Black Hawk Eagle, he's come from a flat yard, and he's just really thrived on perhaps the little bit more attention that they get in a smaller yard, as well as the variety that he has here. I mean, he used to be with Andre Fabre, who I imagine trains more than 100 horses, if not 2 or 3, and here's me with 23. And I think he just loves the fact that he's a little bit more special here, and he can go out in front. He goes somewhere different every day, and he just really enjoys it. Not to mention the slightly slower pace of life. Yeah,
absolutely. No, it's a great way of life. You're doing great. Long may it continue, and thanks for your time.
Thanks ever so much.
Right, joined by Joe Tizzard. Horses flying along. Busy weekend ahead of a busy schedule. Good old Copperhead going to go Newbury Saturday?
Yeah, I think he will. He's obviously in these veterans races now, and I saw the first veterans race at Exeter a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was nearly a Gold Cup trial, so I was glad I avoided that. And this one looks a bit easier. So he's been so consistent. I'd love to get his head in front again, but it's a pot I don't think I can resist with him.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks a perfect race. Warlord's in the Greatwood. He's also in another handicap.
Yeah, I want to run him on better ground, so I skipped Kempton last week, and with the forecast at Newbury, I might be sitting tight for a fortnight with him. But the Newbury forecast a bit of rain tonight and tomorrow, aren't they? So I expect he'll wait and go to Kempton in a fortnight.
Quick, while I've got you, JPR, one start with him. Good form ahead of Learkle?
He's in lovely form now. Yeah, he had a school this morning. Jumped, took him over to school and gave him a pop. He's doing everything right at the moment. We've done all of our work. He's now just got to sort of get him there, really. He jumped beautiful this morning. Brendan was on him, and I wouldn't mind it drying out a little bit. I don't mind admitting, but I wouldn't. You know what Cheltenham's like. It could dry out in 2 or 3 days, but I wouldn't mind it just having 2 or 3 days leading up, drying out for him.
Yeah. Look, here, the Newts, whatever happens in the Queen Mother, he's earned his stripe. What a horse, what a season, what a story it's been with young Freddie.
yeah, Fred was in this morning and he gave him a little pop, and the horse is absolutely jumping out of his skin at the moment. He's full of confidence. He's earned he's like you said, he's earned his right to be there. He owes us nothing, and he'll run a big race. The horse is in full of confidence, and for a 10-year-old, he's absolutely jumping out of his skin.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. It's been, as I say, a great story with Terry Warner as well. What else will you have? Killer Kane, Eldorado Allen?
Probably Eldorado Allen running in the Ultima, and then go for the Grand National, and Triple Trade will probably run in the Grand Annual. Killer Kane, we're going to wait for the top one with him. Right. So probably only the 4 runners, but 4 that on their day would have live each way chances.
Yeah, absolutely. I really hope one of them wins for you. Thanks for your time, Joe. Best of luck at the weekend and obviously at the festival. Catch up soon.
Cheers, Niall. Good man.
Okay, it's time for Team Tracker. Martin's got 1, Dan's got 2. Who goes first?
Go on, Dan.
A couple from Ludlow last week. One called Golden Maverick, ex-flat horse. Finished 3rd under a more patient ride. I've seen him twice now. Catterick, where he was a bit hesitant with his jumping from the front. Picked off by a good one, that Masai Mara. He then went to Ludlow, was ridden more patiently and finished with a fair bit of running left in him. He's probably my main one of the 2. The other one also won at Ludlow. It's Monk's Meadow. It's not for hurdling necessarily, and it's possibly not for next time, but he is a rangy chasing type with the real sort of style of a chaser, the way he goes about things. He'll be one for novice handicap. Emma Lavelle.
Right.
In the reddish and grey stripes.
Yeah.
He's just all over a better chaser. He's been consistent over hurdles. I think he's got point form, held his form well, finally won the other day. Looks versatile regards trip. I thought he'd be a really interesting runner in handicap chases next season.
And Tinajori for me, who was 2nd at Newcastle in a maiden hurdle last week, went down in a tight finish. He'd have won if he'd have jumped a little bit better, but it was hurdling debut. He's a horse that won a bumper last season, and I thought benefit of experience and a bit of jumping experience would do him good and see him improve plenty. And if he'd have jumped a bit better at Newcastle, he'd have won anyway. So he should win a maiden hurdle in the short term.
This time of year, they're weakening, aren't they?
And he's actually by bated breath. He's got an unusual pedigree for a jumper, but he obviously stays well. He won a bumper at Hexham last season. He probably wants decent ground. So coming into the spring, I could see him winning a maiden hurdle and maybe picking up, winning one under a penalty and going on into handicaps and things. So horse that I think can do quite well for Mark Walford.
Okay, there's 3 horses to keep a close eye on in the coming weeks. And again, we ask you, any horses caught your eye over the last week? We've been talking about it for weeks and months. We might as well keep going. Festival Focus is just around the corner. Couple of horses, lads?
Yeah, we've exhausted all the big races now, which is, don't want to be disrespectful to the Boodles, but it wouldn't be high on many people's lists of Cheltenham highlights. However, who'd have thought this Ludlow card last week would have yielded so much? I witnessed Latin Verse win the handicap hurdle with ridiculous authority. 19 lengths, 2 miles at Ludlow. A load of sort of grizzled veterans in his wake, barely able to move on testing ground. He's gone up 10. Time form rated him £16 well in. So I think he's potentially chucked in still. Next target, I was hoping it might be under a penalty somewhere. It's not. They're going for the Fred Winter. He was an 80-odd rated horse on time form figures on the flat for Rafe Beckett. I don't think it was a fluke the other day. And I like the fact he's got plenty of experience for the Fred Winter. So he'd be my first handicapper at Latin Verse.
He should get in as well.
Yeah.
I very much agree with that. There's a few handicappers I think we agree on. He would be one of them. And he should get a run. I think he's number 27 on the list, but some of the top horses will go in the Triumph Hurdle, and you'd say he would get in. Theatre
Man was our agreement as well.
That's it. Theatre Man, yeah. We both agree on chatting about it before. He might go the Ultima, he might go the Festival Plate. I don't know. I think he'd have a good chance in either. I'd personally rather see him over 3 miles.
Yeah, I would have.
Where that he finished behind Ginny's Destiny, but I think a lot of the firms are non-runner money back now anyway, so it doesn't matter if you back him for both races. I think whichever race he goes for, he's about sort of 10 to 1-ish for both races as a general rule. I think you can get slightly bigger, but whichever race he goes for, I'd say it's shorten up whichever he runs in.
You had a McManus toss-up, didn't you, for your main one?
It was a McManus toss-up, yeah, but the one I'll put up is Petit Tonnerre in the county hurdle. I think he's been running over fences so far this season, and I think he jumps better over hurdles. He ran in the county last year. He was only beaten 6 lengths, ran really well. He's £4 lower this year. And he shaped like he was in very good form at Musselburgh over fences last time out, but he didn't get the trip over 2.5 miles, and he kept on jumping out to his left as well. But he did travel through that race like he was in really good form, and he's a talented horse. He's still only a 6-year-old. He ran well, like I say, off a higher mark in the race last year, and he's about a 33-1 shot sort of across the board at the moment. So I think he could be a horse that'll go well.
Yep, and we'll probably shorten. Okay, what's your thoughts? The festival weights obviously released. What do you fancy at a nice juicy price? Let us know. Right, something for the weekend. Obviously with Cheltenham around the corner, it is a little bit quieter, but Kelso, Doncaster, Newbury, all sort of parts of the country's covered. Where do you want to go?
I want to go to Newbury, if I may. I thought it was the best in terms of competitiveness and best to have a crack at the 5-day stage. The opening race is the Veterans Handicap. They're popular anyway, loads of old favourites in this. My first thought was certainly Red after finishing so strongly at Sandown, but back to him at Newbury 2 starts ago, and like in 2 runs over hurdles, he didn't fire. So I'm opposing him with Musical Slave. Current favourites, Copperhead. I just used to love the horse, just couldn't back him. He's so slow nowadays. Musical Slaves, 1 run in a Veterans race, was a win at Exeter last season. Should be a strong pace to chase. Best run this season was When Fresh, and they've given him a break. I thought he had pretty clear signs that this has been his target to win this race.
Okay, Musical Slave.
And Premier Chase up at Kelso. It's a good weekend's racing, actually. I always enjoy this weekend. They've got the Moor Battle up at Kelso as well. But Premier Chase is where I was going for the main view of the weekend at this stage. I think I Right will get quite a bit shorter for the Premier Chase. At the moment, he's 3rd in the market behind Monbeg Genius, who'll be off a 3-month break, and probably the Grand National being a target for him. I don't know whether he'll run because he's got Cheltenham options as well, but I suspect he will. Empire Steel is 2nd in the market at the moment, but he's £11 wrong with I Right on official weights. He's got to give him £4 when he's rated £7 inferior. I Right's been really good this season. He's been in some very competitive veterans races. He ran well at Warwick last time out. I think he's still got all his ability and enthusiasm, and he's got a great record at Kelso as well, so I think he'll go well in the small field Premier Chase. It'll be a pretty much optimum set of circumstances for him.
Yeah, he needs no introduction training. Look, he's been a star horse for I Right, and the owners who had Pat's Jester, if you're old enough, some of you might remember in them colours, a very good horse many years ago. Right, that's us done and dusted. We'll be back shortly later in the week. We're going to speak to Patrick Mullins. Back next week to talk loads of Cheltenham and Cheltenham. I'm not allowed to speak to Patrick Mullins till Friday, so we've got the excellent Matt Brocklebank to do that, so stick with us, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, Patrick, the days are flying by and the festival is certainly taking shape. We had the handicap weights come out this week. I've got 3 Mullins handicappers I'd like to discuss. First up is a horse that a lot of people, I think, were scrolling down to see the BHA mark, which was Sa Majeste. Was 140 just about expected for him?
Yeah, look, I think that's a very workable mark. He's obviously a horse. We does some very good work at home. Look, his with the form at Christmas with Noble Yates, it's probably hard to weigh it up, really. Obviously, Noble Yates probably would have been maybe coming on for the run, but we'd be disappointed if he doesn't have, if he wasn't getting to the high 140s by the end of his hurdling career.
Is that a very light campaign this time around? Was that deliberate?
Not necessarily, but when he won at Christmas, he's not a novice. His options were limited enough, so it kind of made sense. It made sense then maybe not to skip DRF and have a crack at Cheltenham, even though DRF is worth more money. But I think that's what we decided to do.
And he's in the Martin Piper and the Coral Cup. Presumably, no need to decide just yet.
No, and two, I think I don't think there's any particular reason to sway one or the other. But obviously, JP will have a say on that. He'll have other horses. I think we'll be easy enough regards where he goes. But I'm sure Mark Walsh would probably like to stay on him or get on him.
Another one for McManus, Icare Allen. He had a sort of busy time in the summer, qualified for the Pertemps final, went 3rd, came over to Aintree. Do you think he'll stay the stiff miles at Cheltenham?
Yeah, he's a horse that we've always thought has a big race in him. He's he can race a little bit keenly, but the more he's racing, the more he's getting settled. Once he got qualified, we gave him a short break, brought him back now. We're very happy with him since he's come back from the break, but that's not an easy thing to do, to have a break midwinter and come back and win at Cheltenham. It can be done, but it's maybe not completely ideal. I think 3 miles will be fine. I think once he settles, I don't see 3 miles being a huge issue for him, and it might even allow him to have a little bit more up his sleeve. So he definitely has a race of this nature within his grasp. Anyway.
And I've got to mention the 4-year-old Batman Girac. He's got a mark of 133 over here. It'd be maybe near enough top weight, I suspect, in the Boodles, the Fred Winter. But we've seen winners of that race go on to contest Grade 1s at Aintree and Punchestown and elsewhere in the past. If he's in that sort of bracket, who knows?
Yeah, look, I've no doubt the Batman has the ability to be competitive off that mark, but my query with him would be his temperament. He's not an easy ride. You saw that in Ferny Hollow. He can be keen, he can hang, he's far from straightforward. And that Boodles race is a lot of hustle and bustle, big field. I'd be concerned about his temperament for that race.
Okay, while we're on the subject of weights, let's briefly talk Aintree. Obviously, we had the big reveal for the Grand National entries just the other day. If you could pick one of yours at this stage for the great race, who would you prefer to ride in the race if you could? And forget which weight they're carrying. Who would you like to ride?
Look, I think Capodanno is the class horse here. He ran that last year off a very interrupted preparation. I thought he jumped well, travelled very well, and when he got tired, crossed between the Melling Road and the second last, Danny pulled him up and looked after him. Look, obviously, having won the Cotswold, he's not particularly fired in or anything, but the shape of this race is changing. If the likes of Hewick stayed in, but even with Noble Yates there as well, who is going to run, you have Grade 1 horses with a weight that can win the race, under 11.5 stone. So he has to be taken very seriously. Obviously, Meeting the Waters has a very nice weight, but look, he got a massive penalty for winning the Paddy Power. So he has to go and prove that he can be competitive off that kind of mark. We'll know more about him after he runs at Cheltenham. I Am Maximus, he's funny in that he's a horse that jumps left, but seems to be better going right-handed. All his best form appears to be at Fairyhouse. Again, he's a little bit similar to Batman Girac, but in a different sense. He wouldn't be a simple ride in the Grand National. I know the race has changed, there's less runners and the fences are softer, but it's not often you see a horse who has the jumping technique that he has go and win the National. But the fences are softer, so perhaps he can get away with it. But for me, Capodanno has the class, and the way he jumped and travelled in the race last year was just very eye-catching for me.
Let's briefly look back on a class horse that we saw return just the other day, Ferny Hollow. On form, he was probably entitled to do what he did, but how relieved was everyone at the Mullins camp to get this horse back on track?
Sure, look, it was brilliant to see it. Look, he's a fantastic horse. He has such ability. Since we put the hood on him, he's unbeaten. And it's just been so hard to keep him right. He's very fragile. He settled fantastic, which is really good to see. He jumped very well, I thought. And as you say, he was more than entitled to win, getting all the allowances and everything, but he still did it. You could see that he got a little tired after the last. I'd say Paul didn't want to be in front as soon as he was, but he was just travelling so well. So look, we'll have to see how he comes out of the race. I can't see him going to Cheltenham. I'd be very surprised if he went there. But it was great to get him back on the track, and hopefully now we can get him back on it again.
Willie mentioned straight after the race, were his legs okay on Monday morning then? Was everything okay straight after the race?
Look, he seems fine, but at this stage, it's kind of it's when you start stepping him back, he gets a few easy days, and when you start stepping him back up into full work, you'll get to know for sure. But touch wood, now we can get a second run into him anyway.
All right, cheers for the update, Patrick. Best of luck.
Great, thanks so much.
Super stuff. Thank you very much, as ever. We will see you on Friday. Can't wait.
See you Friday, Matt. Thanks so much.
Cheers.